Welcome in, Paul Catalina and Royden Ogletree, who you haven't seen in weeks.
Look at that. I'm back like I never left.
Yeah. Have not seen in weeks. And Royden, I'm so happy to have you back.
Oh, good.
Here's the thing. If you had canceled this week, I had a plan because I would have been screwed. I mean, like, it would have screwed up because I know that none of the other co-hosts have seen any of the Oscar movies.
Oh, none?
Because I have a contention now that has, the last, I'm going to say decade.
Okay.
Most of the Oscar movies have to be boring.
Boring?
Most of the movies. Now,
Okay.
the Best Picture ones that, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once was really good. The ones
Far from boring, actually.
Yeah, far from boring. But,
Nomadland is a snooze fest.
Yeah, so, they have all these ones that they're either really amazingly good, but they're boring and they're preachy.
Right.
That's how you get it in. And then you get excited, oh, hey, Dune Part 2 is in there, Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then they're like, yeah, but we're not going to, give Best Picture to a movie with a sandworm in it. That's not going to happen.
There's multiple reasons why they didn't, and we could probably talk about that, but yeah.
But so you're the movie guy.
Yeah.
I also think for some reason they don't like Denis Villeneuve. So
they didn't even nominate him for Best Director either, which is, if you watch that movie.
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah.
So.
Denis.
Yeah.
If you watch that movie, you find it impossible to believe that they wouldn't nominate him. They didn't nominate him for the first one either.
Yeah.
And it won 6 Academy Awards, all below the line.
Yeah.
And this one won 2 below the line Oscars. Actually, won less Oscars than the first movie, which I contend is way the Dune Part 2 is much more superior than Dune 1.
See?
And anyway, they had sort of a Return of the King, Lord of the Rings, Two Towers thing going on with that. Meanwhile, the third movie is supposed to be completely weird and wild, and I don't think they know what they were getting into with that.
Yeah.
Regardless, So
anyway,
they kind of flubbed that.
Yeah. I'm very excited for certain people who won, like Kieran Culkin. I'm a huge fan of his.
Since he was the bedwetter in Home Alone,
Fuller.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not only he was Maddie in Father of the Bride. He's a younger brother. Everything he's been in, he's been good in. Really.
Did you watch A Real Pain? It's on Hulu.
I've not watched it yet, but I'm really those but those are my kind of movies, small independent movies that are.
It's quintessentially Kieran Culkin. He doesn't really what he is outside and what he was in
Succession.
Succession. I was going to say Severance, but Succession he's kind of doing the same. Kieran
he
Culkin.
is who he is.
Yeah, it's not a bit. It just is who he is, and it comes off.
What's the line from Get Shorty? Is John Wayne played the same part in both movies? He played John Wayne.
Yeah,
I think that's actually credit to a good actor most of the time.
You can just be yourself.
You can just be yourself, and that okay, here it is. Now, not everybody's Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Hanks plays characters, but at a certain point, you're
he's playing Tom Hanks.
It's Tom Hanks.
He's Tom Hanks,
and you're going to give him an Academy Award or you're not.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. He's playing Tom Hanks. He's Tom Hanks. There's nobody who could have played Sully.
Right.
Other than Tom Hanks.
Right.
Those kind of things.
Loved his speech, by the way. He was just telling his wife, I'm going to get you pregnant later.
That. Yeah.
Crazy call by that guy. But anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, so I'm happy about that. I don't understand the career of Adrian Brody at all.
Somebody compared him to, and I thought this
Eli
was a
Manning,
bet.
right?
Yeah, yes, you saw
Eli
it.
Manning.
I think I retweeted it. He's Eli Manning has these two, Adrian Brody as Eli Manning has these two singular high moments in a career full of mostly interceptions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
It's really
he's
true.
Good, he's good in Wes Anderson movies.
Right.
And apparently The Brutalist, which is too long for me to watch at this point in my life.
It was good.
It's good?
Yeah, it was good.
It's
AI
good.
stuff aside, but yeah, it was
okay.
good.
The Brutalist and what was the other movie he was in?
King Kong?
No, the other one he won Best Actor for was
The Pianist.
Okay, that movie, way too long, super boring, awful. It's an absolutely boring, just ridiculous film.
Also,
that is that maybe kicked off this Like, that's what I think of the Academy. Like, it's not even about the political stuff, which I'm sure there's some people in the chat will be like, that's why I don't watch it. But
it's too woke or whatever.
No. It's none of that.
No.
It's like, okay, just pick a good movie. And also, as a comedian, the affront against comedy started at the Academy.
Yeah.
It started at the Academy because they will not recognize good comedy movies.
Yeah, well, if you count Anora, for those of you who have seen Anora, now it's like one of the lowest grossing Best Picture winners of all time now. But it is at points a raucous comedy, which somebody compared it to. It'd probably be. It gets dark really towards the end and like has dramatic moments. But the thing about Anora ended up being it was sort of almost this sort of era's version of a romantic comedy, and somebody compared it to it'd be like the first time that a romantic comedy has won Best Picture since Annie Hall, and but that what was that 50 years ago that Annie Hall came out? Nearly longer maybe. So I would argue go watch Anora. Don't watch it with your kids in the room, but like I would argue go watch Anora for that reason. But straight line comedies or even sort of dark like. When they
as good as it gets, won acting awards, but not Best Picture.
When they didn't award Jim Carrey for roles in Truman Show and what's the one with Man on the Moon, the one with Kate Winslet.
Eternal Sunshine.
Eternal Sunshine, which is more of a dark drama comedy, but like those sort of things. And he kind of went off the rails because of it. Yeah. They gave him the Golden Globes, but they refused to recognize him at the Oscars and stuff like that. That's when it sort of went off the rails. They didn't recognize Adam Sandler for Uncut Gems because he had been a comedian for so long, and they just didn't find it serious enough.
Here's the thing. They need comedians to come and host their stupid show because it's so long and boring. So they need Conan O'Brien and Jimmy Kimmel and all these people to go out there and be funny because most of the movies are not funny and they're overwrought and serious. And look, Oppenheimer, I love Oppenheimer. I love every second of Oppenheimer. Yeah. Like, that's the kind of movie that should win if it's not. But I think, and I'll tell you, and I will die on this hill, and this may be a little bit bro podcasty, but I will die on this hill. There is not a better acted scene in the history of all cinema than the dinner table scene in Wedding Crashers. It is. Look, I'm telling you, it's way harder to do that. Like, Christopher Walken was in the goddamn Deer Hunter, okay? He was in the Deer Hunter, and that movie is intense, right? Okay? Christopher Walken was in that. That movie, way easier for him to do.
You think?
Way easier for him to do.
Him and De Niro nearly killed themselves on that movie, though.
I'm telling you, but that movie, that kind of acting, that intense drama, Dustin Hoffman bullcrap, that kind of thing, those things, that's way easier to do. It's way easier to be a dramatic actor than to be a comedic actor.
I think.
Than to get laughs. And to do it, I promise you, they had to do that scene 20 times because it's hard. And you've got, just titans at that, Bradley Cooper and Vince Vaughn and Walken and character actors that have just been funny in everything they've ever done. Yeah, all these things, all these people, Rachel McAdams, everybody has a joke to tell at the table, and it just goes around in a circle for not even 10 minutes, but for the duration of that scene. And I'll tell you, here's what killed it, because Vince Vaughn got a tug job under the table. They're like, that's not. No, the scene is brilliant. It is absolutely well written and fast and brilliant, and everybody in it kills it. But no, because, you'd go and that movie, what was the movie? Moonlight. Mm-hmm. A guy gets a tug job in the ocean and it's art. Okay? I'm just telling you, this is what drives me nuts about, and I'm, as you know, I'm a huge movie buff, but the affront to comedy started at that Academy, which is why I don't watch 1 second of it. And I love Conan O'Brien more than probably anybody on earth, and I did not watch it because I cannot stand the Oscars.
Okay, did you have questions about it, or?
Oh no, I was
you just wanted to.
But no, I mean, what movies do you What movies do you think I would like? Anora, I think I would like.
I think you would. I think you get a kick out of Anora. There's a I mean, it goes on and on and on. It becomes like a slapstick thing, and it's really intense. But there's a 40-minute portion in the middle of that movie that I think was some of the funniest stuff that I've seen. And it also goes to your point, they just don't make studio comedies anymore, and they don't make comedies that they put in theaters anymore.
I do like Conclave.
I do like
Conclave. I haven't watched Wicked yet, but I will.
But the Wicked
and I will watch A Complete Unknown because
it's also on Hulu now, and that was the one that I really didn't get to besides the foreign film I'm Still Here that was nominated. Nickel Boys just came out as well too, but so the Wicked stands will get mad at me. Fine movie musical that made $1 billion or whatever it did. It also looks like crap. It looks horrendous when you watch it. Okay. It won set design for good reason if you and costume design, which makes a lot of sense, but it also like cinematography and stuff, it just is crazy looking. Anyway, Dune Part 2 you've probably already seen. Anora is good. Conclave, mixed messaging towards the end of the movie, but I really enjoyed it.
But it's a mystery. It's
a mystery movie. Yeah. I enjoyed the intrigue of it. Let's see what else. Like The Brutalist, I think if you do have 3.5 hours to sit down and watch it.
3 hours and 40 minutes. What kind of dick makes a movie that's 3 hours and 40 minutes long?
And the pretense, look, I enjoyed it. I just took a day where Caitlin was at work and I was like, I gotta go tackle this thing. And by the way, bring intermissions back to movies. That's sick. Yeah. Even like a 2-hour movie, bring them in intermissions.
Did it have an intermission?
Oh yeah. It just like with about at I think the 2-hour mark, it stops for 15 minutes. And I went and took a piss and got a Jack and Coke and came back to the theater. Had a good time. But
good deal.
The movie, the Brutalist, which I think got marred in all the AI controversy, and for good reason, and part of the reason why it didn't win Best Picture was, I think, because of that. But also, the pretense of it is built into the movie. One, because it's 3.5 hours long. Two, because it's about artists and their art and what patrons take away from artists and their art, and so on and so forth. It's also an immigrant story, a pretty well-done immigrant story, and has some things to say about that, which I think is better than the message that it has about art. The problem with the whole movie is that at the end of the movie, to me, it just goes, well, you figure it out. And you're just like, okay, thanks, appreciate that. But I'm trying to think of other ones that were nominated that like people liked I'm Still Here. Again, I hadn't seen it because it wasn't really in theaters. Nickel Boys was an interesting thought because the movie is shot all in first-person perspective. So I think the execution of it is what got it up. Yeah, it elevated it above some other movies. What else am I missing? That
no, that's fine. We've been through it. I had to get my rant out.
Okay,
I had to get my rant out, and there are two movie hills that I will die on. One is that the Wedding Crashers scene is the best acted scene in the history of cinema, and two, that Beyonce sucks at acting.
Okay. So, you said that on our podcast.
Yeah, I said it on your. And the next time I'm on, I'll say it again because I know that Dex in particular thinks that because he lives in Houston, one day, when Jay-Z and Beyonce finally get divorced, they'll meet, and then she's going to be like, "Oh, hey, Dex, listen, I really like your stuff, but because you had that guy on your podcast that says I can't act, we can never be together."
I think the big one that by under no. And it's surprisingly the most accessible one because it was just on the front screen of Netflix, was Amelia Perez. And I got to tell you, one of the worst, it's like Crash level bad for, the fact that it was a front runner for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it is horrendous movie. Not because of the messaging in the movie, yada, yada. It is just a bad movie.
Yeah.
And it won Best Original Song. Couldn't tell you a song from that movie. Anyway, so that was kind of the big one that everybody was talking about. And I actually think if you are fine with body horror, and it's actually kind of a comedy too, The Substance is wild. And I think
I'm eventually going to watch it.
I think you should
out of curiosity,
It is out of curiosity nonetheless. it is so gross.
Yeah.
And but at the end of the day, I was like, I'm glad I watched that because I would have never experienced anything like that until I watched it. But so there's some other stuff. I think my favorite film of the year was Dune. And speaking of pretense and stuff, why some things weren't nominated, like the one that we go on and on about in the podcast was Challengers, which, people have their faults with that movie, but it was like the most fun movie of the year besides Dune, I think. And it didn't get diddly squat. Like Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross weren't even nominated for best original score. And I think it's like one of the most streamed scores ever on Spotify. They didn't even get nominated. So that was a whole other thing. But comedies, like if you want to look at Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it has some, in the back end, it has some really intense dramatic moments and mother-daughter storytelling and stuff. But that is like a broad genre comedy, but they're not going to award the Judd Apatow or if you want to like The Hangover or anything like that. They're just not going to do it. The raunchy sort of sex comedy thing. They're just not going to do it. I don't know why, but I digress. The funniest thing that I did see mentioning The Wedding Crashers is after the Super Bowl, I meant to send it to you, was when Vince Vaughn is like, he gets his clock cleaned by Bradley Cooper when they're playing football. And basically somebody said, this was Patrick Mahomes after the Super Bowl. And it was Travis Kelce walking up to him and was like, what are you doing? Every time I come over here, you're on your ass. And he said, if I had air in my lungs, I would scream at you right now.
Yeah. Yes. Again. I don't know. I will not stand anymore for this. Like
Well, they have to start making them again.
They do. Well, the reason they don't make them is just the studios don't pay for them.
Yeah, they don't think that they'll make money, which I don't think is absolutely true, because you saw like one romantic comedy come out 2 years ago with two hot people, Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney, and it made $100 million at the box office and was the most streamed movie on Netflix. So I don't know it's not a hard formula, honestly. Put funny hot people in your movie, man. People will go see it. I promise. The teens will go see those movies.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about the ACC Peace Treaty that has happened now. Let's get into that part of it before we just go full movie podcast. But the ACC Peace Treaty, the boards will approve it. I'm not sure. Like, I think FSU and Clemson are meeting now or have, like, everybody's going to approve it. The deal is fantastic for actually any team that's ever wanted to be out of the ACC. Like, they can send FSU and Clemson's lawyers a thank you card because this is a temporary fix for the ACC, which is what they needed. They knew it wasn't going to be permanent, but every year the exit fee drops by $18 million. Until 2030, when I think it plateaus at like $75 million is the exit there. Or if they waited another year after that, maybe it would be $18 million less. I didn't dive that deep into it. But basically in 2030, the exit fee is $75 million, which is pretty much on par with what everybody's kind of had to pay over the years that's done this. And then those things even get negotiated down in court because you can be like, you can have $75 million over 10 years, or you can have $48 million now. And they're like, well, we'll just take that money now. Like if you won the lottery. Like, the annuity is probably the better plan, but, I don't know if the government's going to be here in 40 years. So I'd just give me my money.
Just in general.
Just give me my money now. Like, I've thought that, like, any time, no matter who's in power, like, if I won the lottery. If I won the lottery, I know the annuity is the better thing. Like, that's the smarter thing to do. But also, because I have such distrust of Congress to make sure that I get my full $500 million.
Give me the lump sum, baby.
Just
I'm
give me
getting
the
out of
lump
here.
sum right now.
Going to Mallorca.
Yeah, exactly. I'm moving to Italy.
Yeah.
Getting a house in Italy, and that's going to be that. So,
What's the thing? If you won the lottery, I may not tell anybody, but there will be signs.
Yeah. I'm not going to I'm not going to broadcast it to the world.
Right.
Because then you get then all of a sudden, fourth cousins come out of the woodwork and be like, you remember that time we played video games when we were 9 at that family reunion because I had a Nintendo?
Yeah.
Well, you're welcome. You're like,
I think don't in Texas you have to identify yourself, or do you not?
I don't think you do.
Yeah, or you just show up in a ski mask.
I mean, you have to go and get it. But you don't have to you don't have
Seems dangerous.
But you don't have to sit there with a big check,
right?
And take a picture of the of the thing.
Hey, all of you who know where I live.
Yeah. So, but hey, where are you going on vacation this year? The moon.
Yeah.
No. But
sorry, I was just sending out some. I've been on my phone, just sending Mac Rhodes named CFP chair. So
yeah. So we'll talk about that. So we got Mac Rhodes on about a month ago. Garrett, was that a month ago? About a month ago. And he actually answered asked us questions when we asked him some about what do you think? And now it's making sense to me why, in particular, he was interested in those questions we were asking him about mostly about transparency. We said we'd like to see more transparency,
right.
But let's finish talking about the ACC first, and then we'll talk about Mac. But I don't know if this means that ultimately Clemson and Florida State and Miami and North Carolina or the ACC blows up in 6 years. But it will now
doesn't it feel like a 6 year from now problem?
But
I'll push that
2030, 5 years from now, in 2030, the Big 12, Big 10, and now the AC, these teams in the ACC can all get out. And it will be interesting to see the SEC is 2034 with their deal. But it'll be interesting to see the pieces start to move on the board again then.
Yeah.
Does that become Super League time? Or I really don't think that there's an appetite for the Super League from the fans. The
from the fans, no, but that doesn't. Since when is the fan input meant
But
anything?
I do think that if they and that I think part of the thing that you see with some of these kind of automatic qualifier proposals they're throwing out there is that's the little test they throw out there and see how people react to it. Of could we get away with this if we were a Super League? And
yeah, I remember I saw a few weeks ago Josh Pate had a big old rant about how it was basically the Big Ten and SEC were
and it's actually more the Big Ten than the SEC. Yeah. The Big Ten is the one who wants the 4 because the SEC they complained and bitched all about this year not having 4, but ultimately they know that they're going to get theirs.
Yeah,
they're going to get theirs.
Laying the groundwork now.
Yeah, look, if Clemson doesn't kick a last-second field goal, Alabama's in the playoff. So,
right.
What are we whining about? We're whining the fact that Clemson won the ACC in the system that you set up. All right, boo-hoo. Yep. That's the thing about.
Cry me a river.
What was there was the South Park that they did about Prince Harry, and it's you can read all about it in my new book. Wah! So, that's just it. Now, the Big Ten knows that, they knew they were going to get 3. I think they, walked into the year thinking, we got 3 easy. No matter what, we're going to have 3 because Oregon exists, Penn State exists, and Ohio State exists. And then out of nowhere, Kurt Cignetti, pulls off this thing, and they get 4. And so then they're thinking, well, we really like that. How do we make sure that happens again forever? As opposed to, just let it happen, man. Don't force it. Let all these things come together naturally. Almost every year, every year, I have no problem saying this, every single year, the SEC and Big Ten, just by the sheer size of the leagues, will get 3 teams in.
Yeah.
In a lot of years, they'll both get 4. Why mess with that?
To have it in a bylaw.
Yeah, to have it why most years you're doing it, you're just riding this away. So that's what I think in 2030 we're going to see is more teams okay, well, how do we reposition? Is there this? And what I would worry about in 2030 is if I am Wake Forest, Boston College, Northwestern, Vanderbilt, Rutgers, any school, that has not gotten good ratings, that hasn't really
Sniffed
done
the
anything,
playoff, yeah.
that like you'll still be in the power conferences. They just may roll you into one together. Like where the Big Ten and the ACC and some of these
like bring back a fifth, like the Pac-12.
They kind of come together and they're like, all right, well, why don't we take these two right here, and we'll take the best parts of these and put them together. And then the rest of you guys, you're fine. You can all be in the, like, you guys can all be in the ACC. It's fine. It's a good league. It's more even. It'll be more like it'll be kind of like the Big 12.
Yeah.
It'll be like the Big 12 where, like, hey, the best of the rest can be here. And then the Big 10 and the SEC will still, like, they'll have all the brand names. Like, that'll be the, like,
they'll drop down to like a 10-team league or
the
something.
Galleria Mall will be the Big 10 and the SEC with all the cool stores.
Right.
And then the boutique shops will be the ACC and the Big 12. If they don't, if in the next 5 years they don't, exponentially grow. I think the Big 12 actually has a good shot to do that and be a fun league. The ACC I worry about because historically they're a 2-team league.
Yeah. Are you more worried about the dissolution of the ACC or just straight up the dissolution of the NCAA?
Well, the NCAA is going to probably go away anyway.
Yeah.
So, and a new body will run it. That's coming. So, I don't know. But this is all indications of, here's the thing. For realignment thing for good, it's over for 5. Like, we don't have anything to talk about for 5 years. There's nothing to talk about for 5 years. Nothing. Everything's going to roll on, and we'll see what happens in 5 years. So we can actually talk about other things. So
it's not going to stop the think pieces, dude.
No. Well, it's also not going to, like, there are several, like, people whose whole
bit is
whole thing is realignment. That are now going to be like, all right, they're going to be like Project 2030. Let's go through it and find out like what we're going to do. Like, all right, well, here's the deal. Washington State's going to use all this time.
Yeah.
And they're going to make a rare earth minerals deal. And then they'll have money. You don't know this, but most of the people who go to Washington State are from Ukraine. Yeah. So that's what'll happen. It'll all do this. Like, here's the thing. Bill Gates will get involved in this because he knows things. He knows things, and he's more interested in, like, he's going to make sure that Stanford, all those things are going to happen. Like, that's what the new wave of it's going to be. And I'll just tell you, we have nothing to say for 5 years. Everybody's locked in for 5 years now. Like, the fee is not palatable right now for Florida State and Clemson to leave, although they know how much it'll cost the longer they wait. They know that it's going to drop down. Yeah. Plus, there was nowhere for them to go right now. It's the best deal that Florida State and Clemson could have possibly hoped for at all. Like, it is, because they had nowhere to go, but then they seemingly get everything they want anyway. And when it comes to, like, the grant of rights and all these things, when they leave with their media rights. So it's not like, oh, we leave early. No, they leave with their media rights. That's negotiated all out.
Why did the ACC want to make this deal?
Because
they don't have any other choice, or would they have a barrel?
Well, here's the thing. It's either this or just be in court for the next decade.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's just make the deal.
Settle,
make the deal. And the thing is, it's not economically viable for all three parties to just keep doing this over and over and over again. Bill Bowers wins, but ultimately you've got to turn, because this has now been a year-long process for both Clemson and FSU, and especially if you're the FSU board who's been out there going,
these lawyer fees are expensive.
Well, eventually the board's going to be like, hey, how's this going? Like, how is this going? Like, what answers do we have? Now, like, they squawked enough and they got time to plan. So if they're not smart enough to have we remake the ACC in a better image plan, we do this, we do this, And if the other schools in the ACC want to make this work, just like the Big 12 needs to make this work, you guys got to start winning games, and it's got to be more than just Florida State and Clemson. Miami, you have to come back and be Miami again. North Carolina, you have to be something. You have to be something. The fact that you can even say that people watch your football games is ridiculous.
Hey, they got Hard Knocks, though.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you like that, but that's why.
They what? Oh, it got canceled. The NFL threw their weight around a little bit on that?
Oh. So, yeah, but I mean, they go, they go get Belichick. But again, in 2030, if Bill Belichick is still coaching there, please. I mean,
I don't know about that one, Chief.
Look, here's the thing. He had to take a job so he could, tell his 28-year-old girlfriend, like, hey, listen, I'm busy.
I can't do another Instagram post.
I cannot. I cannot. Like,
what is a reel? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but he's only got a couple years before he dies from that. Or, he decides, well, this is really hard coaching college football. It's,
I got to go in recruiting. Ugh.
Well, I don't think he goes on many. But, of course, he doesn't kick up a fuss like Dion would if he showed up in your hometown. But,
right.
But yeah, I think Bill, people would be like, oh, hey, Bill Belichick's at my house. Like, yeah.
You want to come play for North Carolina?
I'll have an unsweetened iced tea with no lemon, please. Nothing fancy. Let's not go
crazy here.
This isn't a drag show. Let's keep it simple. Yeah. So
I just do find it. You want to come play or not?
I mean, look, I've won like 1 million Super Bowls. I can call Tom Brady on the phone right now. Gronk likes me. I mean, you guys like Gronk, right? You're on the Twitters and stuff.
Yeah.
I know him. I made him. So
I do want to know how kids are gonna react the first time he calls them like an idiot in a film session.
Yeah. 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 That wasn't good. But they have to do something. And the Big 12, I actually think is set up well because every year we're going to get a new story in the Big 12, which I know doesn't do well for dynasties, but I think building the whole brand out of if you make the thing, hey, we don't know who's coming out here. We don't know. It could be Kansas State. It could be Utah. Could be Arizona State. Could be Texas Tech.
Yeah.
It could be anybody, any year. Could be Colorado, could be Baylor this year, could be TCU. We have no idea who's coming out of this thing. So our games are appointment television all year long. That's what they need to sell. Don't
lean into the parody, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, this league is crazy. The best games you're going to see week to week are our games because top to bottom, we're good. Most of the teams are good. And then, all the games are going to be close. You're going to have close games all the time. And it's going to come down to the last week. And it's not going to be Georgia and who else? Although the SEC was a tightrope walk last year, So the Big Ten really wasn't. It was the 4 teams and no one.
I hate that gambling is now kind of become incessant in all things sports. But just spitball. Do you think the Big 12 leans into that nature? Hey, you could throw some money on any underdog and they can win, sort of thing. Partnering with whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got their claws in Vegas and stuff recently, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you think they brand that way?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, maybe they do, but that's what they have to do. But that's what they have to do. They have to just lean into the fact that it's good. And the ACC. They really do. Somebody has to. NC State's got to get better.
Yeah.
Syracuse has to stay getting better. Pittsburgh's got to stay good. They have to. You guys have to start winning stuff. This can't just be a 2-team league. It can't be Clemson and Florida State, which for the last 40 years, that's what it's been. That occasionally there's a Virginia Tech that pops up out of the ground. Wake Forest won once with Jim Grobe. They'll pop up.
Jim.
But it's just one moment. Pittsburgh had a good year, but it's just one moment in the sun. You need a lot of moments in the sun. You need multiple teams in the playoffs. You need SMU I think is a great hope for the ACC. I really do because they have the financial backing to money whip anything. So, here's the thing. Rhett Lashley could, as long as he wins, he can stay there as long as he wants and get raises. And some big job may come for him. There's no doubt in my mind if Arkansas moves on after this year, he's one of the first guys they're calling. absolutely they're going to call Rhett Lashley. And one of the few places on earth that can stare down at the SEC school with money is going to be SMU because, like, no, we're going to keep him.
Yeah.
Rhett, what'd they offer you? Okay, fine. We'll give you more. Don't leave.
Call one donor, make it shake.
Yeah. You know all this, all the oil.
Yeah,
that's like all ours.
It's between us and Texas A&M. We have
and Tech, yeah. SMU, A&M, Tech, like the Texas, like these schools in Texas have the oil. SMU, Tech, A&M, and Texas have oil.
Just full of Daniel Plain views out here. Just like,
yeah.
I want your coach.
Yeah. I drink your milkshake. Speaking of Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah. Coming out of retirement, by the way.
He is.
Yeah.
Really? To play Spider-Man, I hope.
Yeah, no, it was Batman.
Yeah.
Actually. 6-year-old Batman. They offered him a lot of money.
It's for the Fast and the Furious, isn't it?
It's all about family, man. He felt the need.
This it. You learn your lessons one heartbeat at a time.
I don't even know, like, Daniel played
how he would respond to that.
Dom Toretto.
Yeah, absolutely.